Welcome back. Today we're going to continue on with the kitchen renovation, which has been going on for a year and a half. Today I finally have some material to continue on with the doors. So far, the way I've been doing them is using the router to make both the groove and the tongue. It's been giving me a lot of trouble actually, and it's kind of why I've been putting off making more doors, because it's just such a pain, right? I don't know if it's my bit or what. It's really hard to dial in the exact where the bit and the back brace need to be to get everything to come out perfectly and exactly the same. So I was using my table saw to cut the little shoulders here. Still not perfect. Table saw is probably even less exact than my router table, so the only thing that I could think that might make it a little bit better is a new bit. So I will still use straight bit for the groove. That works out fine. It's a little bit unwieldy since I have to run the piece through like this, but I do have a backstop, so I can push it against that. So it's not too bad. What is bad is the panel. So, a little backstory here. I am not using actual like wood for my rails and stiles. I'm using this stuff, which is MDF. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good product. Especially if it's not like a super long piece, but I don't know if you'll be able to tell. It's wibbly wobbly, right? Especially holding a stack of them, which is what I was doing. You know, you get a bunch of them all at once and you know you're gonna use them all. But they bend. They bend pretty heavily at the ends. And I was really worried about the stiffness of them, especially since my doors are, most of them, at least 3 foot tall. And I didn't want them to also weeble wobble. So instead of doing a 1/4 inch plywood piece in the center, just as a panel, which would have been the easy route, we don't do the easy route here. I thought, okay, well, a thicker board would be stiffer, right? But I still wanted the reveal that comes from having that frame. So I needed a piece of sheet good, somewhere between a 1/4 inch and 3/4 of an inch, which is this. So what I came up with was this stuff. And I think that's what I've been using. And what I need to do is make the edges a little bit thinner so that they can slip in to my groove here. Like that. So the back is basically flush. And the front has a reveal. Cutting this rabbet, that's what that's called, a rabbet, has not been the most simple thing, especially using either a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch straight bit. So this one's a 1/2 inch, that's what I've been using for it. So you gotta get the depth just right. You gotta get it to stick out just the right amount. You gotta get this dialed in so that it's gonna hit it at just the right spot. And that's not easy, because I don't have a whole lot of a back brace for this. It's maybe 1.5 inches tall. And I have built a little jig for that so that I can slide it along. Still not the easiest thing. So what I'm hoping, got a new bit. The idea is that this will come out from the middle of the table like this, right? And then I'll be able to slide my sheet good, my panel, along like this, and it'll just cut that out like that. I hope. So the issue with that is that I don't know where to position everything in order to get that exactly right. Let me show you. So here's my router table that I built very hastily from scraps. Scraps are your friend. Here's my back brace. See, it's not very tall. Also, this isn't great. We might work on that too, but not worried about that right now. So I need to do two things, I think. Maybe. That actually looks like it might fit. Might not have to worry about this hole. But I'm going to have to put this into my router and then adjust it to where it pops out of that hole just the right amount in order to cut this board to where the tongue piece is 1/4 of an inch thick. And then I'm going to have to figure out where to adjust this to too far in. I think 1/4 inch is what I've been going for this whole time. So 1/4 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep. And then once I figure that out, what I'm going to do is cut a master block, or like a gauge if you want. If you want to call it that, probably better. Master block, gauge, depth gauge kind of thing, so that I know the next time that I have to build doors, because there are more, I can pull out this block, stick it down there, set it over the bit, raise the bit to the right depth, move my back brace to the right spot. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you the results. Quick correction. Since it has been literal months since I've done one of these, I forgot what I was doing. And usually I have these written down, but I don't know where I have it written down at. I'm not using MDF for the panels, I'm using particle board. It is 1/2 inch deep, meaning this is 1/4 of an inch and this is 1/4 of an inch, makes things a little bit easier. But the depth, this right here, is not 1/4 of an inch, it is 3/8. So I found for me the easiest way to get that back stop on the right spot is to just cut or take a piece of scrap wood and place it behind it, right where it needs to be, clamp this so it doesn't move, and then drill some screws into it. This is where I put my, I don't know what you'd call them, my stop blocks? Yeah, stop blocks. You'll see that I have some scribbled out because I don't use them. Now this one and this one, I think, are the ones that are good for the small bit. That's the one that's on there. But I think that one stays. I'm not sure. It's been a few months. But what I'll do is place this somewhere, mark around it so that I know exactly where it's going. Give this a name so that I don't just randomly use it for something else. And then when I need to do that kind of cut, all I have to do is pull this out, line it up with its lines, wherever they may be, and screw it in. It is by no means foolproof, clearly, because I don't know what some of those are. But it helps. That's what I'm going to do now. Got all my pieces cut. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Just enough friction to hold it in a place, but not so much that it doesn't glide smoothly. Yeah. So the next step is probably to make sure that these are the actual correct measurement for that cabinet. I'm really hoping so. But if not, this is the time to correct it. I'm gonna let the dust settle. I was wearing my dust mask. But I'm gonna let this settle down and we'll come back to do that later. Got my measurements. And that is how long they need to be cut total. And then the short ones will get a tongue on either side. Basically just like this. Let's go. Okay, everything has been cut, everything has been routed. Now all I have to do is glue it, clamp it, and let it dry. And that will be it. a straight edge. Now it's not if this is curved or not. There's a little bit of wobble. I think I'm gonna have to turn it 90 degrees because I think this is its shorter side. I think that'll work better. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now let's put these clamps on. Okay, that's pretty straight. Let's do it on this side. Looks better than it did, so I'm gonna let that dry. All right, now ignore the noise. Next step, after these dry, will be to prime and paint. I do like to use an oil paint for these because they are not wood. They're wood product, particle board and MDF. I read somewhere that water-based products can make them swell, and I didn't want that, so oil-based isn't supposed to do that. So I do an oil primer and then I do water-based paint over top because you can do that. You can't do the opposite. But I feel like the oil-based primer is really sturdy. It's not going anywhere, and it protects the product. That's the next step, but that is another video. See you then.